you kids get to bed, I get the storybook.
Taylor's Swift driver's destruction, a G.K. David movie story. Prologue, Taylor's new toy. The idea for the Freightliner mobile mansion came as a perfect blend of luxury and practicality. Taylor Swift's 200-city tour needed more than just comfort. It needed the allure of a new experience, a moving sanctuary that could rival any penthouse in Manhattan. Freightliner, renowned for its innovation in the transportation industry, presented this as a flagship project, promising Taylor not just a tour bus, but a revolution in how artists traveled. Taylor's regular bus driver, a reliable and cheerful presence on previous tours, had unexpectedly hit a personal snag. His CDL was suspended for failing to pay child support, leaving Taylor's team scrambling for a replacement for the tour. Her road manager, Josh Reynolds, turned to the trusted platform, Indeed.com, in search of a suitable driver. After reviewing numerous applications, Josh felt a certain candidate stood out. Dan Roberts seemed to have the perfect blend of experience and enthusiasm. A recommendation from a rep from his last employer, Swift Transportation, who happened to be a relative, described him as an excellent driver during his time at Swift Transportation. What Josh didn't know was that this recommendation was a mother effin' lie, a well-intended lie that masked a history of disastrous mishaps. Dan had been one of the worst drivers Swift Transportation had ever employed, with a record that included 3 major crashes within 7 months, leading to his termination. The large trucking company had a notorious reputation nationwide for having the most careless drivers ever, and Dan helped to keep that reputation intact. Somehow, Dan passed all the initial tests and interviews set forth by Taylor's team, displaying a professional demeanor and a convincing narrative of competence. Therefore, he was brought aboard. As the tour began, everything seemed to fall into place smoothly. The Freightliner mobile mansion glided through the highways, a beacon of elegance and comfort, drawing envious looks wherever it went. However, the veneer of professionalism began to crack when the tour reached New York City. Dan was a functioning meth addict, a fact he had expertly hidden during the hiring process. After days without a fix due to the demands of the tour, he managed to score some of the lethal powder in New Jersey. Unbeknownst to him, the batch was laced with a dangerous hallucinogen. The trip to Manhattan was everything the nightmares of all nightmares consisted of. As the behemoth tractor-trailer approached the George Washington Bridge, Dan began to hallucinate wildly, seeing a giant African-American mermaid with huge, wobbly D-cup titties flapping on her chest as she squirmed in his lane. His erratic reaction to the imaginary, half-naked, half-fish woman caused the Freightliner mobile mansion to swerve uncontrollably, crashing through the guard railing on the bridge's upper level and dangling precariously over the edge. Authorities were quickly notified, but the weight of the luxurious rig, combined with the chaotic traffic, delayed the rescue efforts. Despite the frantic attempts, the heavy tractor-trailer eventually plummeted into the choppy waters below. By the time Port Authority divers reached the vehicle, everyone on board, including the pop goddess Taylor Swift, had drowned, or so they assumed, because no dead body was ever recovered. In her final moments, Taylor managed to call her parents. Her father, Scott Swift, contacted a close friend who worked as a scientist at a secretive human cloning clinic. The scientist, driven by both professional curiosity and the prospect of immense wealth, advised them to keep Taylor's death a secret and proceed with cloning her, which is what her parents first began planning early in the pop princess's career, when a commercial flight she had taken was hijacked by a Middle Eastern terrorist group trying to make a name for itself. Luckily, the plane was even able to take off from LAX airport, and Homeland Security was able to board the plane and apprehend the group. In this current dilemma, with the help of a covert team, Taylor's body was retrieved and hidden before Port Authority divers even reached the scene, allowing her parents to have a clone created to preserve her legacy. The clone of Taylor Swift looked like the real woman who became a gazillionaire from her beautiful songs, and it continues to sell out arenas, maintaining the superstar's image and fame, although, like with every cloned human being, if you really knew the original person and interacted with its clone, you could tell that something wasn't right with its personality. The world remains unaware of the tragedy that occurred on the George Washington Bridge. the truth buried beneath layers of deception and the seamless perfection of a cloned superstar.
There may be rumors of me breaking up with Travis, but who cares about that? Right now, y'all need to smash the like button and subscribe button for my favorite YouTuber, GK David II. His stories are so crazy. We all know they're not real, but still the best shit on YouTube. They're like mini movies.
Chapter 1. The Opportunity. Josh Reynolds paced nervously in his office, the stack of resumes on his desk growing taller by the minute. Taylor Swift's tour was just weeks away, and the search for a new driver had taken an unexpected turn. The Freightliner mobile mansion was a complex vehicle, and finding someone with the right skills was proving more difficult than anticipated. "Damn it," Josh muttered under his breath, rubbing his temples. Why did Mike have to get his CDL suspended now of all times? Mike Johnson, Taylor's regular driver, had been with them for years. His sudden suspension due to unpaid child support had thrown a wrench into their carefully laid plans. Josh needed a replacement who was not only skilled, but also reliable and discreet. He logged onto Indeed.com for what felt like the 100th time, scanning through the latest applications. Most of them were either overqualified or severely lacking the experience needed to handle the Freightliner. Just as he was about to call it a night, a new application popped up. Dan Roberts, Josh read aloud, scrolling through the resume. Extensive experience with long-haul trucking, several endorsements, and a glowing recommendation from Swift Transportation. It looked promising, almost too good to be true. Josh picked up the phone and dialed the number listed on the resume. After a few rings, a gruff voice answered. "Hello, this is Dan." "Hi, Dan. This is Josh Reynolds, road manager for Taylor Swift. I came across your application and wanted to discuss the possibility of you joining us for her upcoming tour." There was a moment of silence before Dan replied, his voice suddenly brightening. "Wow, Mr. Reynolds, I would be honored. I've been a fan of Taylor's music for years. When can we meet?" "How about tomorrow afternoon?" Josh suggested. "I'll send you the details. We can go over everything in person." "Sounds great. I'll be there," Dan said eagerly. After hanging up, Josh felt a sense of cautious optimism. Maybe, just maybe, this would work out. The next day, Dan arrived at the designated meeting spot right on time. He was a tall, well-built man in his mid-30s, with an easy smile and a confident demeanor. They discussed the details of the tour, the responsibilities, and the expectations. Dan seemed to have all the right answers, and his enthusiasm was palpable. "Can you start immediately?" Josh asked, feeling a wave of relief wash over him. "Absolutely," Dan replied without hesitation. "I can be ready to go by the end of the week." As they shook hands, Josh couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this tour would go off without a hitch after all. Chapter 2. Hitting the Road. The Freightliner mobile mansion was a sight to behold. It was a marvel of engineering, combining the ruggedness of an 18-wheeler with the luxury of a high-end apartment. Taylor Swift herself had overseen some of the design elements, ensuring that every inch reflected her style and comfort needs. As the tour kicked off, Dan proved himself to be a competent driver. He handled the massive vehicle with ease, navigating through busy city streets and winding country roads alike. Taylor and her team quickly grew accustomed to his presence, appreciating his professionalism and friendly demeanor. "He's doing a great job," Taylor remarked to Josh one evening as they relaxed in the spacious living area of the mobile mansion. "I think we really lucked out." "Yeah, he's been solid," Josh agreed, feeling a sense of relief. The tour had been running smoothly, and the feedback from the crew was overwhelmingly positive. Dan, for his part, was reveling in the opportunity. Driving for one of the biggest pop stars in the world was a dream come true, and he was determined not to let anything ruin it. He kept his addiction well hidden, maintaining a facade of control and competence. The tour rolled through city after city, each performance more electrifying than the last. Fans flocked to see Taylor, their excitement palpable. The Freightliner became a symbol of the tour, its sleek design and imposing presence drawing attention wherever it went. However, as they approached New York City, Dan began to feel the strain. The constant driving, the lack of sleep, and the relentless pressure were taking their toll. He had managed to stay clean for most of the tour, but the cravings were becoming harder to ignore. In New Jersey, Dan found an opportunity to score some meth. He was careful, making sure no one from the team saw him. The high was exhilarating, but what he didn't know was that the batch he had bought was laced with a powerful hallucinogen. As they crossed the state line, entering the upper level of the GWB into New York, Dan's world began to warp. The skyscrapers across the river seemed to sway, and the road in front of him twisted like a snake. He tried to focus, gripping the steering wheel tightly, but the hallucinations grew more intense. Then he saw her, a giant brown-skinned mermaid with gleaming scales, a juicy bubble booty, and enormous D-sized bare breasts, flapping right in the middle of his lane. Dan swerved violently, trying to avoid the voluptuous, imaginary creature. The freightliner careened through the guard railing on the upper level of the George Washington Bridge, hanging precariously over the edge. Chapter 3. The Plunge. Panic ensued inside the freightliner as Taylor and her team struggled to understand what was happening. The vehicle rocked dangerously, the sound of metal grinding against concrete filling the air. Outside, traffic came to a standstill, drivers honking and shouting in confusion and fear. Taylor grabbed her phone, dialing her parents with trembling hands. "Mom, Dad, we're in trouble. We're hanging off the George Washington Bridge. I don't know if we're going to make it." Scott Swift, upon hearing his daughter's frantic voice, felt a cold dread settle in his chest. "Stay calm, Taylor. We're going to get you some help, baby girl." Inside the freightliner, chaos reigned. Dan was incoherent, mumbling about sexy-ass mermaids and monsters. The crew tried to steady the vehicle, but their efforts were in vain. The weight of the luxurious rig was too much for the precarious position it was in. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but the dense traffic made it difficult for them to reach the scene. They shouted instructions, urging everyone to remain calm, but the situation was dire. As the minutes ticked by, the freightliner's position became more unstable. With a horrifying creak, the vehicle finally tipped over the edge, plummeting into the icy waters below. The impact was devastating. Water flooded the interior, and despite their best efforts, the passengers couldn't escape the sinking rig. By the time rescue divers reached the vehicle, it was too late. Taylor Swift, her team, and the ill-fated driver were all lost, though Port Authority divers accounted for everybody save for Taylor's, which had already been secretly collected before they arrived.
Quick commercial break.
Hey y'all, is your favorite G-Banger, Week 100, from the Pyru podcast here on GK David Stories Network. I'm plugging this brush for the Lil Snow Bunny that Ye snatched the mic from a long time ago. Taylor Swift, for all y'all Swiftie ladies out there that need a new brush. Y'all need to go over to Amazon and grab this hairbrush that comes with 2 scrunchies. I'm bald-headed, but I ordered one to brush my booty hairs, and this thing got the softest bristles ever. It's an ideal hairbrush for all hair types, so hit the Amazon link in the description of this video and grab one today. There's also a link right under it for this Taylor Swift coffee mug for all y'all Starbuckers out there.
Chapter 4. The Cover-Up. While Taylor was still alive, trapped inside of the mobile mansion, her dad, in his grief, reached out to an old friend, Dr. Alan Grayson, a scientist working at a secretive human cloning clinic. Grayson had always been fascinated by the potential of cloning and saw this as an unprecedented opportunity. "Scott, listen to me," Grayson said, his voice calm and persuasive. "Taylor's legacy is too important to lose. If she doesn't survive, we can clone her. We can keep her memory alive. She can continue to inspire millions." The news of Taylor Swift's tragic accident spread like wildfire. Fans around the world were devastated, hoping that their idol wasn't taken from them in such a sudden and shocking manner. Scott was hesitant, torn between his grief and the desire to protect his daughter's legacy. After a long and agonizing deliberation, he agreed to Grayson's plan. The next steps were carried out with military precision. A team of divers, hired by Grayson and working independent of the Port Authority, covertly retrieved Taylor's body from the river. They managed to keep the operation under wraps, the details known only to a select few. Using advanced cloning technology, Grayson and his team quickly and successfully created a clone of Taylor Swift. The process was painstaking, requiring the utmost care and secrecy. The clone was an exact replica, down to the smallest detail, indistinguishable from the original. When the clone was ready, it was seamlessly integrated into Taylor's life. The world was none the wiser, and Taylor Swift continued to perform, her concerts selling out as always. The clone possessed all of Taylor's memories, mannerisms, and talents, ensuring that the transition was flawless. Chapter 5. The New Normal. The new Taylor Swift adapted quickly to her role, embracing the life that had been laid out for her. She continued to tour, record music, and interact with fans, never missing a beat. The public remained blissfully unaware of the truth, captivated by her performances and the persona they adored. Behind the scenes, Dr. Grayson kept a close watch on the clone, ensuring that everything went smoothly. He was driven by both scientific curiosity and the financial benefits that came with the success of his project. The Swift family, meanwhile, found solace in the continuation of Taylor's legacy, even if the reality was bittersweet. As the years passed, the clone became more than just a copy. She developed her own nuances and experiences, growing into her identity as Taylor Swift. She maintained the same level of dedication and passion, striving to honor the memory of the original Taylor. However, the secret weighed heavily on those who knew. Scott and Andrea Swift struggled with the deception, the burden of the truth, a constant reminder of their loss. Josh Reynolds, too, found it difficult to reconcile the vibrant presence on stage with the knowledge of what had transpired. Despite these challenges, the plan succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. Taylor Swift remained a global icon, her influence and reach undiminished. Fans continued to flock to her concerts, her music topping charts and breaking records. The world may never know the true story behind Taylor Swift's survival, the intricate web of lies and scientific breakthroughs that kept her legacy alive. But for those who did, the sight of her performing on stage was a testament to the lengths they went to preserve a star who was too big to lose. Epilogue. In the end, the Freightliner Mobile Mansion became a symbol of both tragedy and triumph. The disaster on the George Washington Bridge was a grim reminder of the perils of fame and the fragility of life. Yet out of the wreckage, a new beginning emerged, a testament to human ingenuity and the desire to hold on to what we cherish most. Taylor Swift's clone continues to shine, her music a beacon of hope and inspiration. The secret of her creation remains guarded, a closely held truth known only to a few. As long as she continues to perform, the legend of Taylor Swift endures, a story of resilience, innovation, and the enduring power of music.
Daddy, we about to be rich, baby. Daddy, we about to be rich, baby.